According to Professor Ohashi and researcher Yusuke Watanabe of the University of Tokyo's Institute of Science, 80% of Japanese ancestry is from the Philippines and the South Pacific, while 70% of Koreans are from China. Japanese people are generally known to have descended from two main groups, Filipinos and Chinese. These are the Jomon hunter-gatherer groups and the migrant farmers from the East Asian continent. We Koreans believe that the Japanese are descendants of the Baekje people who crossed over from the Korean peninsula. So let me ask you first, have you ever thought about the ancient history and ethnic roots shared by Korea and Japan? Using a statistical analysis of blood index, AMI, the researchers revealed the distribution and intermixing of these groups throughout Japan. They also found that the Jomon people had genetic traits that made them resistant to famine and malnutrition, but more susceptible to obesity. On the other hand, the East Asian farming group, the Yayoi people, were found to be resistant to infectious diseases, but vulnerable to inflammatory responses such as asthma. With the development of modern science, we have been able to escape from the deceptive myths that have resulted from political and ideological struggles and accurately analyze and understand the truth. Countries like Japan and Korea are known to be extremely homogeneous and uniform societies that lack the diversity of a single ethnicity. However, if we look into their ancestry, we can see that they are divided into the Jomon, a hunter-gatherer group, and the Yayoi, an agricultural people. To cut to the chase, it is a matter of proportion, whether there are more Filipino or Chinese lineages. 80% of the ancestors of the Japanese are from the Philippines and the South Pacific, while 70% of Koreans are from China. Conversely, only 20% of Japanese are of Chinese agricultural Yayoi descent, while 30% of Koreans are descendants of the hunter-gatherer Jomon. Previous DNA analysis studies have shown that the Jomon people exhibited unique genetic characteristics. They show different genetic characteristics from modern Japanese, especially the Y chromosome haplogroup called D1A2A. A large settlement dating back to 4000 BC was discovered at the Sanai Maruyama site near Tokyo. Artifacts from that period show their cultural characteristics. For example, the Jomon pottery at the Tokyo National Museum dates back to around 5000 BC, leaving evidence of their artistic sense and technological prowess. The University of Tokyo research team studied the genetic data of 10,800 people across Japan using AMI and a genetic marker of Jomon ancestry called the Jomon allele score, JAS. Their genetic scores indicated a high proportion of Jomon ancestry. Previous studies have shown that rice farming first began in northern Kyushu, the southernmost of the Japanese islands, and spread to the Osaka area of central Japan and the island of Shikoku in the southwest. The AMI study found that Jomon scores were relatively low in these areas, indicating a low proportion of Jomon ancestry and a high proportion of Yayoi. In contrast, the southern island of Okinawa had the highest Jomon score, followed by northeastern Japan and the Tokyo area. While studying genetic variations originating from the Jomon in modern Japanese, we also found some important differences. Jomon hunter-gatherers were better able to withstand starvation due to higher blood sugar and triglyceride levels. At the same time, the Yayoi lineage from the East Asian continent showed stronger immune resistance to disease thanks to higher C-reactive protein, CRP, and eosinophil white blood cell counts involved in the immune response. We looked at the regional characteristics of obesity rates and the incidence of asthma in 5-year-old children. Those from areas with a high proportion of Jomon ancestry were found to have a genetic predisposition to obesity. In contrast, those of East Asian Yayoi ancestry were found to be more susceptible to asthma. This found that descendants of the Yayoi agricultural people have a strong immune system that is well protected from disease, but are vulnerable to allergic diseases caused by an overreaction of autoimmunity. In other words, while higher C-reactive protein, CRP, and eosinophil white blood cell counts mean they are better protected from disease, it also means they may be vulnerable to allergic diseases. Research on Jomon ancestry has shown that it is possible to accurately predict the regional incidence of diseases such as obesity and asthma, not only in Japanese, but also in Koreans. In addition, research data on the population distribution and characteristics of the Jomon people are expected to greatly contribute to the development of medical technology, not only in Japan and Korea, but also in all regions where descendants of the Jomon and Yayoi exist, such as China and the South Pacific. We look forward to seeing what the future holds for research on diversity and its roots using AMI. This is an example of how it is important for us to move away from meaningless and unproductive controversies and stereotypes stemming from political and ideological divisions and pursue truth based on academic research and objectivity. In Japan, the national average for Jomon ancestry is 80%, and Yayoi ancestry is 20%. Conversely, in Korea, Yayoi ancestry accounts for 70%, and Jomon ancestry accounts for 30%. For reference, if you look at the DNA of Chinese Han, Manchu, etc., you can see that more than 99% are of Yayoi descent. Modern genetic research has revealed the genetic markers of the Jomon and Yayoi. The Jomon have the D102A and C101 genes, while the Yayoi have the O2B and O3 genes. These genetic markers are playing an important role in tracing the ancestry of Japanese and Korean people. Looking at the linguistic characteristics and structure of the Japanese language, we can see that there are many characteristics of the ancient Jomon language in terms of vocabulary and phonetics. In the case of the modern Okinawan language, which is directly related to the ancient Jomon language, it is easy to find similarities in grammar to Japanese and in vocabulary and phonetics to the languages of the Taiwanese indigenous peoples and Tagalog in the Philippines. The Korean Yayoi originated in northern China and Manchuria after 1000 BC. On the other hand, the Japanese Yayoi are known to consist mainly of the second wave of refugees from the Sui dynasty who came from the central China region and the first wave that arrived before the Common Era. However, it is not known exactly where the tribes that crossed over in the first wave before the Common Era came from, and opinions differ among scholars. In Korea, the influence of the Yayoi people is evident in Korea's language, culture, and genetic makeup. I hope that proper research will be conducted on the origin of the Yayoi people, including the linguistic similarities between the ancient Yayoi language and modern Korean. The Chinese Academy of Social Sciences has consistently argued that both Koreans and Japanese are descendants of the Chinese, originating from the Chinese Yayoi people. We look forward to a proper rebuttal from the South Korean government and Kim Jong-un's regime in North Korea. By understanding the ethnic characteristics shared by Japan and Korea, and further by Northeast Asia, the Philippines, and the Pacific Islands, we must recognize that we are all connected. In doing so, we can cherish the rich heritage that binds us together. For example, studies have shown that genetic traces of the Jomon period remain in 80% of modern Japanese and 30% of Koreans, demonstrating the deep historical connection between the two countries. In addition, the agricultural techniques and social structures of the Yayoi period had a profound impact on the overall agricultural and social systems of Japan and Korea today. These studies are important factors in understanding the modern society, culture, and national character of the two countries. Your support is the motivation and driving force behind creating even more amazing content. If you enjoyed this content, please like and subscribe. That's all for today. Thank you for watching.